G'day all. Welcome back again to Dad versus Son, and we're about to start the second introductory scenario for Panzer Grenadier the Kokoda campaign, and this one is called Pursuit. And I thought I'd introduce it this way after watching Tony from Tony Board Games. Oh, stupid. Because it's got everything here, and you can see it as well as me. So Pursuit again. This time the defender is Australia, and Japan is the attacker. So Australia's got the 39th Hawthorne Q Infantry Battalion, and the Japanese have the 114th Infantry Regiment and the 15th Independent Engineer Regiment. Introduction is the fight at Kokoda provided a morale boost for both sides. Though they were unable to hold the village after taking it, the tactical victories scored A and D companies proved for the first time that the Japanese were not Superman able to be swept. Were not Supermen able to sweep all before them. As for the Japanese, the fact that no enemy reinforcements arrived to hold Kokoda told them just how thin the Australian forces facing them were. Previously content to just sit at Kokoda and wait for the main body of South Seas Detachment to arrive, Colonel Yokoyama and Lieutenant Colonel Tsukamoto resolved to, I think that's supposed to be pursue the retreating Australians and perhaps destroy them. Meanwhile, Major Cameron brought E Company, the last of the fresh reserves, forward to join C and D companies in an attempt to blunt the new Japanese advance. And the conclusion was that the Japanese assault came against the left flank of the line, manned by the untried troops of E Company. Under constant fire for most of the morning, the Australian line bent but did not break. But as the Japanese broke off the attack earlier that afternoon, it was clear to Major Cameron that his men could not fight off a second attack, and he made plans to withdraw back to Isuvara. There, the Aussies could make a new stand and wait for reinforcements. Deciding that they could not catch and destroy the Australians in retreat, the Japanese once again went back to waiting for the main body of the South Seas Detachment. This uses map 34, flipped over, so the map number is down the bottom. And the orders of battle, we have Australian leaders, HMGs and infantry, and the Japanese again have leaders with 81mm mortars, engineers and infantry. So that is that. Let's just close that down. The Australians start with initiative 2 and the Japanese with initiative 4. Australian morale is 7-6, whereas the Japanese are 9-8. So, yeah, their morale is a lot better. The Australians will lose a initiative point for every 3 steps lost, and the Japanese for every 4 steps lost. We start at 0800, and we finish after, I think, 14 turns at 11:15 up there. Right, so let's drag that over out of the way. Again, looking at how Tony was setting his up, I think this is a nice way to do it. So we've got everything ready to go. So here's the map. As you can see, it's flipped with 34 down there. So we have the north up the top, south down the bottom, and so forth. Very, very hilly terrain, even worse than last time. We've got elevations of 80, 60, 40 through the center here, and then 20 down here, sort of thing. So, yeah, lots and lots. So the idea is, it's 14 turns. The Australians start with 9 infantry, 2 heavy machine guns, a major, 5 lieutenants and a sergeant, no off-board artillery. And the Japanese start with 12 infantry, 4 engineers, 2 81mm mortars, a lieutenant colonel, 2 captains, 5 lieutenants, and a sergeant. No off-board artillery. And the victory conditions is, it all comes down to this little village right here. I remember how this is done. Right there. The Japanese player wins if the village at 0911 is under friendly control at the end of the play. Any other result is an Australian victory. So that's that. So I've left the troops off here, just hidden at the moment, but you saw where some were. And the Australians set up within no closer than 4 hexes to the top of the map. I think it was set up first anywhere at least 4 hexes from the north edge. And the Japanese enter anywhere on the north edge on turn 1 or later. And they can enter at any time. So I've set up the Australians and I've set up the Japanese, and here they are. Ta-da! So here is the village. So I've put a little Australian flag there because we hold it at the moment. And what I've tried to do is basically give the Australians a couple of lines of defence. And because I want to try out the disorientation rules and so forth, I've got them spread out so the Japanese can try and come down through jungle as well if they want, and stuff like that. So I've got a lieutenant over here. Again, all the officers, leaders, were drawn randomly. So we've got an 8 lieutenant there with 1 infantry platoon, a sergeant of 9 with 1 infantry platoon, and this is another village over here, and this is the blocking force for in case the Japanese decide to come down this way. So I've got a lieutenant and 2 infantry platoons in there. He's a 9 with a 1 morale modifier. Now, this is a little bit of an intersection here. In case the Japanese decide to wriggle down through here and then come all the way up this way and try and flank us. So they're helping to stop that. So that's him and him and him. Then here, I've put a lieutenant. Again, he's an 8 morale with a heavy machine gun and an infantry platoon. And they're sitting in the jungle here, and they can cover the track here and the track here, and also this streamline here. So if the Japanese come down this trail and break through here and these blokes are forced to retreat, we've still got a blocking force here. So I thought that was pretty good. So I've tried to put at least 11 direct firepower everywhere where I could, or at least where the main areas are. So that's my first line of defence. This is my second line of defence here. Well, this is probably my second line of defence, third line of defence, and the forlorn hope. So over here in the jungle, I've got the Major, and he's got a 1 combat factor, and we've got the 2 infantry platoons in there. So again, he's sitting up here so he can cover off the jungle, the stream, and the track here. And then our second heavy machine gun and infantry platoon is over here with a lieutenant. He's only a 7, but he's got a combat factor of 1. And again, helping to block off these jungle approaches and also the track. And then lastly, our little lieutenant down here, who's actually our best leader, 2 combat factor and 1 morale factor with a morale of 9. So the biggest thing that's going to affect the Australians this time is really, really going to be their morale of 7-6. That's just horrible. So not great morale. So that's the cunning plan at the moment. As forces need to fall back or anything else, then they can bolster other forces, and that's the way I've sort of looked at it. The Japanese, I've broken them up into how I want them to deploy to start with. How I'll bring them on at the moment, I'm not right sure. But starting over here, we've got a lieutenant. He's an 8 morale with 2 infantry platoons. And then here I've got a lieutenant, a 9 with a 1 morale factor. Um, so that gives him 2 infantry platoons and an engineer platoon. So that gives him 4, 8, 11. Like I said, I tried to give him at least, an 8 or an 11. I want to try and cut down on the 3s as much as possible, unless I can sort of beef them up like these guys here, where I've got the lieutenant colonel who's a 9, the captain who's an 8, again 2 infantry and an engineer platoon. Probably the best leader for the Japanese here, this captain who's got a 1-1. Again, he's got 2 engineers and an infantry, so that gives him 3, 6, 8, 9 to start with. Then I've got this lieutenant here who's got the 2 81mm mortars, because they've only got a movement factor of 1. So, yeah, not real great. Then we've got a lieutenant with a sergeant. They're both 9s, and the sergeant has a 1 morale. And they've got 3 infantry platoons, and then lucky last, a lieutenant with a 9 who's got 1 morale factor with 2 infantry. So that is it. So my cunning plan for the Japanese to start with is to bring on the mortars and place them here. And then what? I don't know. And then I'm trying to work out. So this is going from 60 down to 40 here, and these are all 40s in here. So I believe if he's sitting here, he should be able to see down into here. It's the line of sight on this is really funky. I really don't know what good the mortars are going to be, because I really can't see how they've got line of sight to anything. Because no matter where I put them, unless they're adjacent, I think their line of sight is blocked, because this is classed as jungle. Well, I suppose this is sort of clear here. There's, a little bit of jungle there, a little bit of jungle there, but it's not like this sort of thing along the track. And this looks more like light jungle here. So this to me would be blocking terrain, so you couldn't see down through here. And even if you sat in here or here on this 80, he's looking down, but this is the same level as this, so he'd be looking down through blocking terrain at the same level. So yeah, I just don't see where they can see anything. So maybe when we get into it, you can show me where I'm wrong, and we can go from there. So let's start off the first turn anyway. So initiative roll first up. So again, we'll roll for the Australians and then for the Japanese. So, and we will do Fog of War, and we will do Disorientation, and we will do Random Events. So need to open up the book for Disorientation, so I can see it, so I can go through it when we get to it. Oh, that's in the advanced rules. Yeah. I'm not doing hidden units and leaders at the moment. Yeah, so disorientation. Righto. I think I've got all the books ready to go. let's roll. So for the Australians, we roll a 6 plus 2 is 8. And for the Japanese, we get a 6 plus 4. So there's a difference of 2. Half down is 1 activation for the Japanese. Righto. So what are we going to do? 1 activation. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Well, I suppose the slowest blokes to move are going to be these little fellows, but I'm going to actually start with these guys here. I'm going to activate this stack and sorry. Again, like Tony did it, what I'll do is I'll say, yes, they're all going to move. Now this bloke's going to move. He's got 3 movement factors, but that's as far as he can go, is to there. Going to let me move there. Let's get these out of there. There we go. He moves to there. He moves to there. He moves to there. And that's 2, 3 jungle and contour line. And then once they're all moved, boop, boom, they've activated. And then we go over to the Australians. This will be their first activation. And they are doing nothing, and they pass. So we go to the Japanese, and we're going to bring on the lieutenant here with his mortars. Why not? Okay. For a move, and I'm just going to bring them on there. First one, second one, third one. Oops. And they're done. So the Australians still haven't activated, but the Japanese have had 2 activations. Now back to the Australians, doing nothing, going nowhere, just holding the line. We come to the Japanese. These blokes will move. Going to come into here. Oh, come on. Doesn't want to do it. We'll come on here. Stuff them like that. And they have activated. Back to the Australians. They've got no line of sight to any of this, I don't believe, because we've got the contour line here, so we'd be looking across what effectively is crap. On to the Japanese, and we'll bring this lieutenant on. And they're all going to come on down here. Done. Australians are still doing nothing. We will bring on the Lieutenant God. Yep. We're going to activate all this mob, and they're going to come on over here. So that's 2. They still get the +1 for the track. Sorry, that's 2, 3 coming on because of the contour line and the jungle. And they get the 1 move for the track then. That's it. Is what I believe. This is my lead scout company. Australians still not doing anything, not getting into it, not getting out of it, um, because I still believe they can't see them because they're looking across this stuff, which is at the same height as this, so it's blocking line of sight. Um, these guys here may, well, these are the same. So I think this would block line of sight to there and all the rest of it again. Righto, so let's just speed it up a bit. These guys are going to move to here and these guys are going to move to here. Everybody's activated and that is the first turn. The Australians again are simply passing. The Japanese have nothing to do, so we can clear markers and that's it. So I'll post this up and you can give me your thoughts on line of sight pertaining to this sort of terrain, because it's really sort of throwing me a little bit. And I don't want to screw it up too much. So I'll move this up to the 0815. I'll pause it here and I'll see you back here for the 8:15 turn in a day or so. Take care. Bye for now.